Welcome in. It's the Early Wedge. I'm Rick Gehman. This is your DFS preview for this week's Truist Championship, a signature event with a very, very good field. We will discuss all of it. Sia Nejad joins me this evening. Sia, good evening.
You might have seen that when the show started, I was kind of looking down. Usually it's to like retweet the show or something like that. But somebody named Sked63 tweeted at a post I had earlier saying, I've never won anything until I started just picking guys Mike says I'd lean towards or I'd pivot to, with the crying, laughing emoji or whatever that is. That's usually a pretty good strategy. Just do what Mike does.
Well, there he is. Mike McClure is here. Hi, Mike.
Hey, Rick. Sia, great to see you boys. Signature event again, ahead of a major. I live for these weeks. Honestly, I think I perform better DFS right before the major. I seem to stumble sometimes in DFS at the major itself. So I'm very much looking forward to elevated event, elevated prize pools, and just a unique test. I say unique test of golf because we have very little data.
Yeah, that's right. We've got a great field here. Basically, everybody but Scotty Scheffler is going to play this week, the week before the PGA Championship, and they are going to Philadelphia Cricket Club. So so let's try to get everybody up to date here. This is the Truist Championship. This is the event that used to be the Wells Fargo Championship. The Wells Fargo would normally be played at Quail Hollow. This year cannot be played at Quail Hollow because that's where we're going to play the PGA Championship. So we've seen this in previous years with the President's Cup or with the PGA Championship at Quail. They will move this event 1 year, just like a one-off, to another golf course. This year it is Philadelphia Cricket Club, the Wissahickon course. There's 2 courses over there. And this is the first time in really modern history that we are going to see this. The Senior Tour played here like 10 years ago. There have been championships held here 50 some odd years ago, but this is really, Sia, the first time that we are getting this golf course with players of this caliber. So Josh has the scorecard up on the screen right now. How does the handicapping, the analyzing of the golf course go for a brand new golf course?
It's tough. I mean, to be honest with you, a lot of it has to be trying to gather data as the week goes. I mean, I've talked to a couple people, I've listened to a couple of podcasts, like trying to, and mostly from people who have played this course before. Like I noticed Alex Bickle was on Pat's show. I talked to Keith Stewart today from Read the Line, talking about, he's played this course before too, and obviously Tour Pro. And, it's just one of those things. You're just gathering data. And some of the stuff I learned from those two people, I'll be talking about on the show. But it's hard. It's really hard to, like, there's 2 narratives floating about, Rick. I mean, there's, off the tee, like preference to accuracy. Then there's actually, it's a preference to distance, and sailing over, carry distance over some of those, dog legs and the bunkers and things of that nature. So I think you could go either way here, but I do think there's a right answer. And so I do think it comes down to gathering information as the week goes. How high is the rough, things of that nature. I'm certainly favoring the distance guys over the accuracy guys, but that's just me.
It is not a particularly long course, Mike. It'll be in mint condition. It's an A.W. Tillinghast design. It's a classic golf course. It was redone a handful of years ago, but this is a classic golf course, kind of those gentle dog legs with fairway bunkers on the inside portion of the dog leg, which kind of requires you to hit some strong tee shots. What do you see when you start breaking down this venue?
Yeah, like everyone, there are a number of ways it can go. Still compiling data, but leaning towards still looking at the high end of distance. Just those that can really bomb it, I think will ultimately find an edge. As far as how deep the rough is, to be determined. I admittedly do not have a ton of data on that just yet. So going to be leaning heavily into tee to green and kind of recent form and really playing, as far as DFS goes, playing the ownership game, because when we lack some of this data and we start to get, some group think and some consensus on a few names, I think this week more so than some of the other elevated events, we might see some discrepancies in where the field comes in versus probably where they should be coming in.
Mm-hmm. I actually think, Sia, that this week are like the best thing we can do is acknowledge that nobody has any idea.
Right. Well, so there's a difference between having an idea and having the answers, right? We can have an idea, we can have an educated guess, a hypothesis, but the thought that we're going to be like, this is how you attack this course. Like, I'm definitely right here on a Monday talking about it. Like, I think that's a little, it's just obviously a little disingenuous. But what I will say is, because this is a DFS show and not the betting show that we have tomorrow at 7, I do think it's just really easy to say to yourself, all right, well, there is obviously going to be some groupthink. I'm sure there's going to be diversity of opinions. Some people will go one way, some people will go the other. But because it's a DFS show, all we really have to determine in this no-cut signature event is, where is the herd going? And I don't have to pivot off all of those places, but I do have to consider where they're going, where the ownership lies, what the roster construction looks like. Like, I mean, we're going to get into it. We've got Rory in that 12K range. We've got a bunch of 10K guys. We know that a lot of people are going to want to play Rory for good reason. So that's 12K right there. Well, what are they going to do with the rest of their lineup? This is something we'll talk about throughout the show, but very likely they grab either a low 10K guy or a high 9K guy. And then now you have to live in the 6K and low 7K range if you're going to do that. So what do we think the roster construction is going to look like as people build? I mean, obviously there's different ways to build without Rory as well. But I think once you figure that out and you start to realize, well, the 8K range is probably going to be a little ignored. Maybe the high 7K range in large part is going to be a little ignored because people are diving up top and diving down low. You know, what can I do roster construction wise to at least be a little different?
I love naming names. I love that Rory McIlroy is back in the field. I love that we've got a very strong $10,000 range on DraftKings, and I want to start naming them. And we're going to do just that after a quick word from our partners.
The crowd loves champions. Gladiator 2 is an epic spectacle. Remarkable! To amuse you is my only wish.
The glory is yours, not mine.
Very good. Gladiator 2, rated R. Now streaming on Paramount+.
And we're back. Here it is. This is the cheat sheet. This is on my website, rickrungood.com. There are 4 golfers in the $10,000 range, and I think we've heard of these guys. Rory McIlroy is $12,000. Collin Morikawa at $10,500. Xander Schauffele $10,200. We've rounded out with Justin Thomas at an even $10,000. A lot to digest here, Mike. How would you like to attack the top of the board?
I will take Rory McIlroy at 12. I think 12 would be an appropriate price point on Rory if we also had Scotty in the field at 13 or 12.8, but we don't. Scotty is gone, and that's a considerable chunk of win equity just gone, not existing in this field. So Rory is too cheap considering how he has played. I know we say that a lot about Scotty. Obviously, that worked out well finally for us last week, Scotty being not expensive enough. Rory is in that boat considering this field right now. And then my other note is, if you want to play some ownership game, I don't think anyone's clicking Xander at that price point relative to where Collin and Justin have been. So I think Xander's going to be the one that gets squeezed. But when I run lineups over here, I'm getting 100% Rory on that run, but 90% Rory. So he's too cheap.
Well, the thing is that the 3 of the 4 guys see in the 10K range have some pretty solid evidence in favor of, right? You've got Rory McIlroy, who's won 3 times, including the Masters. You've got Justin Thomas, who's coming off the victory at the RBC Heritage. You've got Collin Morikawa, who's been great and gets the perceived bump from having Joe Griner on the bag. He's going to have that honeymoon phase. You think that's the argument that gets made, especially after Joe Griner wins with Justin Thomas just a couple of weeks ago. That does leave Xander Schauffele as not really the odd man out, but the guy that doesn't have the strong narrative in his favor.
Yeah, I guess. You're talking to a guy that took Xander a few weeks back. So I guess the question is, people have to ask themselves is, where is Xander at? Where's the state of his game? Is he fully back? And I don't know that anybody can answer that question either. We saw him 2 weeks ago. So he's going to have, he's going to be 2 to 3 weeks removed from the RBC. The off the tee play hasn't been perfect. Obviously, the 3 out of the last 4 losing there, but the approach play, we've seen that spike in a big way from time to time. It's been very consistent. Putter's just been okay, but he's still Xander Schauffele at the end of the day. So if he's going to be lower owned, then, I don't know that I'm curious as to how much ownership Collin ends up getting, but I do think it's probably Rory, it's probably JT, and then it's probably Xander and Collin. And I like Xander. It does come down to ownership with me at 10,200. I started a lineup with Xander and Ludwig, by the way, and it's just such an easy way to build. And you can do that with Rory too. You can go Rory, Ludwig. It's pretty easy to build, especially with so many in a signature event, so many guys in the 6K range that are really good. But if we're looking at, so if you're watching us on YouTube, go back to the cheat sheet real quick, because this is such a good illustration of like, well, what style do you prefer? Because if you like Colin, it might be because you think accuracy is going to be important here and distance is not going to be as important. Because when you look at the distance numbers of Colin versus Xander, JT, and Rory, it's night and day. You look at the accuracy numbers, it's also night and day in favor of Colin Morikawa. So I do think, you almost have to declare in this range, like what type of golfer you were. Obviously, Rory kind of works on both levels. I don't know about the other two, but if you declare which one you like here in terms of what type of golfer, then that might sway you one way or the other.
If it's not Rory McIlroy, Mike, who is it?
I'll say Colin. Yeah. I'll say Colin. But my response probably tells you how I'm going to play it, and that's going to be Rory and move on. Mm-hmm. I'm probably not playing either of the three. Now, again, there is a price point that everyone becomes playable, meaning ownership. But as of right now, for me, it'll be Rory and then dip down, grab a guy in the 9s, and then kind of build out the rest of the way. If you said, Mike, I can't play Rory, you must play one of these. For me, it would be Colin.
Okay. Colin Morikawa, his last individual event was a T54 at the RBC Heritage. He had 6 consecutive top 20 finishes prior to that. And as mentioned, he is going to have a new caddy on the bag this week. Let's talk about that 9K range, Mike. Let's just get you down there and see what's going to happen here. So there are 6 golfers. Ludwig Åberg is 9,800. Patrick Cantlay is 9,500. Russell Henley's 94. Then the rest of this range is Tommy Fleetwood, Jordan Spieth, and Viktor Hovland. Where would you like to go here?
It's a real strong Patrick Cantlay for me. I talked about Cantlay a couple times on the show in the same vein as Scotty, in that there's just like, he hasn't won, but he hasn't done anything bad. He's just been lurking, playing solid golf. I think that this could be a spot for Cantlay to break through. And I really, I think that he could be a $10,000 player right now. I know you're not seeing, T2, T3, those kind of results necessarily. But he's played really good, really well, in my opinion. So for me, it's Cantlay. That's where I want to start in the 9s for sure.
Loves a good Northeast pure bent grass golf course. Patrick Cantlay kind of just needs that putter to heat up a little bit. The ball striking numbers have been phenomenal for Cantlay here in 2025. Even going back to 2024, just hasn't found the winner's circle just yet. Sia, you kind of tipped your hand a little bit. You said you've been making some lineups with Ludwig Åberg here. Is he the number one guy in the 9K range for you?
I mean, when you're talking about upside, yeah, he's got, he hasn't really put it together quite recently, but Ludwig certainly has the distance if you're looking for that, and also has some reasonable accuracy. Total driving is going to rate out pretty well. Off the tee, obviously going to rate out pretty well. There are, he's been spotty with the approach play here and there, and the putter hasn't been great, but he's Ludwig. Like, to me, when it comes to like these superstars, I'm not worried about some checkered recent form. I will say Cantlay, when you look at his form, it looks really good. He's had some short game issues, but I don't think that's going to plague him here. Like, he looks really, really good. But if it's for me, like from a pricing standpoint, I like the upside of Ludwig. I like Jordan Spieth, which I never say, but I just like his price. I don't think he's going to be super popular necessarily. And I like Viktor Hovland, who I also don't think is going to be super popular at 9,100.
Let's talk about those last two here, Mike. I've got Jordan Spieth and Viktor Hovland's profiles pulled up. Jordan Spieth is on a stretch of 4 consecutive top 18 finishes, including that solo fourth that he had to Byron Nelson last week, where he had one of the better rounds in recent memory for him. He did that on Sunday. And then Viktor Hovland, who we have not seen since the RBC Heritage, so it's been about 3 weeks or so. He's on a stretch of 3 straight positive ball striking weeks, which include the victory out the Valspar. So how do you kind of compare and contrast these two?
Considering we don't know a ton about the course, I'm interested in backing Jordan Spieth's just current form. I I've seen enough there. With Jordan is you could see a good result or two, but the fact that we're stringing pretty good results together, I think it's time to continue to ride that momentum that he personally has built there. I think that we all know the talent that he possesses, and when he's right, he's one of the best golfers in the world still, in my opinion. So if I were to play one of those two, it would definitely be Spieth over Victor in this one. So 9,200, it's like over the last year or so, he may not need to be a 9K golfer. Over the last month and a half, he definitely is a 9K golfer. So when you see that, I think that you have to really decide what kind of sample size you want to use. And that's the beauty of this game is I certainly don't use the same sample size for every golfer in the field. I make very aggressive assumptions when I'm, analyzing things like this. I personally, like Sia, am going to put a lot of weight in what I've seen from Jordan Spieth over the last few weeks.
Jordan Spieth, who had plenty of putting woes in 2024, has now gained strokes with the putter in 5 straight. He has not lost the driver, which has been good for basically 17 months at this point. Sia, let's put a bow on this range. I'll get it back to Victor for you here. What is it about this profile, or what is it that you see in his game that got him on your short list here for this week?
Well, we've recently seen the upside, of course. I mean, I think Victor Hovland, I'm okay putting him in sort of that Ludwig conversation or that superstar conversation where at any moment, Victor Hovland can be like the old Victor Hovland. And I understand he just won a tournament, but, he obviously hasn't been super consistent. But again, at 9,100, especially if he's not going to get a ton of ownership, I just think he's the type of guy from a ball striking standpoint and from a getting hot with the putter, which he very much has been over the last few tournaments. Victor Hovland's just one of those guys that can be at the top of the leaderboard. I mean, I don't want to say it's not like he's mispriced or anything, but again, I'm looking at a signature event, a no-cut event. I'm looking at 4 rounds. I'm looking for a guy to get scorching hot with, I don't know, maybe 3 of those 4 rounds. I think Victor Hovland fits that bill, especially at that price.
I'm going to keep rolling, Josh. We'll get to the break here in a little bit, but the 8K range, as you can imagine, in a signature event has a lot of great plays. Hideki Matsuyama, Corey Connors, and Sepp Straka are at the top. The middle, that's your Daniel Berger, your Shane Lowry, your Sung Jae Im, and then a handful of names at the bottom of this range, including Maverick McNeely, Minwoo Lee, Keegan Bradley, and then 2 golfers at $8,000 even. Those are Jason Day and Robert McIntyre. Sia, you get first crack here at the 8K range. A handful more names. There's not a huge drop-off. Very good players and guys that have been playing well in 2025.
Yeah, nonetheless, I think there's going to be a pretty big drop-off ownership-wise in this range. I think a couple of guys are going to get picked, and I'm looking at Corey Connors. I think he's going to be a pretty popular option, which totally makes sense. I think Sepp Straka might get some ownership. Daniel Berger makes a ton of sense. I mean, Connors and Berger are probably 2 of my favorite guys in this range. Yep. Down low, I think Keegan is interesting at that price point, 8,100. It's honestly, you could put him at the high 7Ks, but I think Keegan probably fits this course pretty well. My 3 favorite are it would probably be Berger, Keegan, and Corey Connors.
Well, here's Zach's question in regards to Berger and his form. So let's look into this. The form, Mike, has been splendid. Yeah. Since the Phoenix Open, which was in February, he has not finished outside the top 30. His one of his best finishes at T3 just came in his most recent start at Harbor Town. Do you follow what Zach from the chat is saying and what Sia is saying, that Daniel Berger here at $8,600 is a great option?
I think he's a great option because I think that in the signature event, I still think there's a subset of the people playing DFS that just aren't clicking Daniel Berger's name at 8,600 in this field. So yeah, I think that if you want to, similar to the Jordan Spieth thing, I put a lot of weight in Daniel Berger's recent play. I put a lot of weight in Spieth, and I put a lot of weight in Corey Connors. Some of those are for personal reasons, injury reasons, just the fact that what they're doing on the golf course, right? There's a combination of all 3 of those things. And all 3 of them, I am using much, much smaller sample sizes than the average golfer in this field. So I like Daniel Berger. I like Corey Connors. As far as playing them, it is going to come down to an ownership number for me. I will say that I do like them both in betting markets. I think that betting both of them in top 20, top 30 kind of markets is a very, very good look again this week.
Corey Connors has cooled off And by cooling off, he's finished T18 at the Texas Open, 8th at the Masters, and then just a 49th at Harbor Town. What a horrible finish and what a horrible run that has been. How about the bottom of this range, Sia? Because you've got I find these to be tricky names that I don't know where they stand, or I don't have a good finger on the pulse. I never get them right. Sung Jae Im seems to be trending in the right direction. Then you've got some high upside golfers like Maverick McNeely and Minwoo Lee. Then you've got Keegan Bradley, Jason Day, Robert McIntyre. That could be like the 6 guys that I have the worst pulse on.
Yeah, and of all those guys, the one that sticks out to me that I never really love to play, but again, if we're trying to fit some guys into a narrative, if we're building lineups based on narrative, and you can build lineups based on opposite narratives, right? But Minwoo Lee makes a lot of sense. If you're talking about, hey, the bomber that might end up being in the rough, but can also get hot with the putter and will be a lot closer in on approach. I think that's a guy that's probably not going to get a ton of ownership. Again, he just won as well. Obviously, we see here at the Houston Open, but I think he's an interesting play because if we're right, or if I'm right, or if others that have advised me are right about driving distance being a big thing. I mean, you look at those other guys like Sung Jae Im. I just can't come around to Sung Jae Im personally, but he's also a shorter hitter. So it's like, to me, there's a couple of strikes against him. I'm not just fond of what he's done in 2025, and he's a shorter hitter. So if I'm going to defer to a player I don't normally play, it's going to be somebody like Minwoo Lee.
Sung Jae was lost, and now he's just a little off the beaten path. Still needs to fix that second shot. The approach play is still a pretty big problem, but he has flashed some signs as of late. Mike, how do you take apart the bottom of this $8,000 range?
The guy that stands out to me is Jason Day, on a guy that I'm okay taking a shot on. The price point is fine at 8K. I don't think a lot of people are over anxious to play him, but I think Jason Day, he always has been, so it's a little unfair to say that he's become a big game hunter, but I kind of think he might be a big game hunter. And talking about these elevated events, you look at what he's done, like API in the Masters, and just like flashing great form at events like that in strong fields. The thing that I point to here, like, yes, he's no longer like super long off the tee. The approach play hasn't been super great, but he can putt. And if the rough isn't as bad as we think it could, I don't think it's going to be terribly bad personally from looking at it. But again, we're still very early in the week. We have very little data. I have even less access than you two do to seeing things on the course right now. Right. I don't mind leaning into Jason Day in a tough field when it's coming with good putting in this particular setup. So I like Jason Day here. I plan to play Day in one of my 3 lineups.
All right, fair enough. All right, Josh, now it's time. We are going to continue this conversation. We still have plenty of golfers remaining, 51, in fact, across the 7 and the 6K range. We won't talk about all of them, but we will talk about some of them after a quick word from our partners.
Get ready.
Wait a second. I thought we were going tubing.
All 3 Sonic the Hedgehog movies and Knuckles are now streaming on Paramount Plus.
And everyone loves it.
Every adventure.
Just try to keep up.
Every face-off.
This ends now.
And every moment that will have you saying,
Where have you been? My entire life!
It's showtime!
All 3 Sonic the Hedgehog movies and the entire Sonic universe are now streaming on Paramount Plus.
And we're back. How about this 7K range? Oh, Sam Burns, he's not $9,900 off the best finish that he's had all year long. He's not. He's $7,900 with Wyndham Clark. The middle of this range, Brian Harmon and JJ Spawn are both sitting at $7,500. And then at the bottom, the $7,000 guys are Michael Kim and Rasmus Højgaard. Mike, I obviously did not name them all. There are 20 guys in this range. So, all of them are available to you. Where do you want to go?
I'll call it the elephant in the room, Keith Mitchell. I don't know how he's 7,400. I think he could be 8,400, and I would still have some interest in playing him. Obviously, withdrew from the Byron Nelson, playing on the sponsors exemption here. Just incredible form of late, and talking about the distance, like basically as long as you get, going to be a great driver of the ball. I just think he's too cheap for the skill set in a limited field like this. So low hanging fruit, but give me Keith Mitchell 7,400.
4 straight top 18 finishes. It does include the Zurich, but even on his own ball, that's 3 in a row where he was trending towards the top of the leaderboard. He went 18th in Houston, 12th in San Antonio, and then the runner-up finish in Punta Cana before the Zurich Classic. We haven't seen him since then. Sia, the 7K range is now available to you.
It's interesting about Keith Mitchell too, because what we just saw on that screen was gaining with the putter 3 out of his last 4 measured events. And now we can assume that at Corrales, where he finished T2, and at Zurich, where he finished T18, that he probably also did pretty well with the putter. So has Keith Mitchell at least partially fixed that issue?
This is the ultimate trap spot, right? This is where Keith Mitchell just like, he's way too cheap. He's playing way too well. He just absolutely destroys us all.
Well, speaking of weight, though, because it's a no-cut event, the weight on his shoulders rounds 1 and 2, maybe 3 and 4, maybe it's just a little lessened here. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of going a little psychological approach here, but like clearly he's done something with the putter that has afforded him 6 tournaments in a row, or 5 out of 6 where he's done pretty well with it. So yeah, I agree with Mike. 7,400 makes sense. Now, if he's going to be super popular, that there's a decision to make from an ownership standpoint, which we can make when we get that information later in the week. But I mean, looking at it, JJ Spawn has my interest at 7,500. Especially in these signature events, I don't think he backs down from these. I think he's properly long. He could be a little bit longer, but he's certainly in the middle of the pack from a distance standpoint. And yeah, he's got some bad finishes recently, but we've seen the upside at the Cognizant Classic, at the Players. We've seen second place finishes. I just think, again, when you're getting 4 rounds and you're getting a guy that's been in contention somewhat recently, a couple of different times, I think he's kind of probably going to get overlooked. Other 7K guys, Davis Thompson had my interest. The putter is such an issue with Davis Thompson that I don't know that I'm going to click the button, but it's probably worth it. I mean, at Davis Thompson at 7,700 can absolutely murder it with the ball striking. So can Taylor Pendrith. I think he's interesting at 7,100. I kind of like Michael Kim, but Davis Thompson's a big question mark for me. Mike, it sounds like you like him. Rick, do you like him as well?
I would like it if it was like, in the golf simulator when you get on the green and it's like a guaranteed 2-putt, or it's like an auto putt. Like, I would love that because he gets to the greens way more efficiently than his peers, and then things go very sideways for him.
Now, these are fast, undulating greens, are they not? I mean, wouldn't that kind of spell even more doom for somebody like Davis Thompson?
Well, I think they're supposed to be. Now, it's, from what I understand, it's kind of wet out there, and there might be some more rain. But it's weird, Sia, right? I mean, it's a good point because sometimes it depends on the undulation. At Augusta National, very big undulations, but subtleties in there. A place like Kapalua, where you might get undulate, but like, some guys can see it better that way, right? Like if you can see it's a 20-foot putt, this is very clearly moving right to left the entire way. I just have to kind of start it, and it's like an even undulation. That's one thing. So I don't know enough about the Wissahickon course to be on top of that, but it's certainly valid.
Yeah. I'll jump in and say I do like Davis Thompson. I don't know if I'm gonna end up playing him. If he was like a flat 7K, I think it would definitely fit a lot better and be a little bit more appropriate for where I want to be. The other guy, though, that kind of for me is a lot like Jason Day is going to be Justin Rose. Like, he's not long off the tee, but the putter is good. He's solid all around. We don't exactly know what this golf course is going to throw, so for me, I just want some dudes that are great golfers that have played just a ton of golf in their life and have a ton of experience at anything that can be thrown at them. And Justin Rose, to me, checks that box, especially when he's 7,600, not 8,600.
I'm going to give you a little spoiler alert. In my, it's scheduled to go out tomorrow morning, my Rick Run Good newsletter. I ran everybody in this field on just the first time they play a golf course. So once you get past the first time, it doesn't matter. So Rory McIlroy's like trips 2 through 17 at Augusta National do not count. Just the first time you saw a golf course. It was Rory, number 1. Rory's a very good golfer. And then I think Justin Rose was number 2. And you're right. You're right, Mike. It is the preparation, what you get done on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, being a pro, right? Like that's a real thing when you show up at a golf course that no one has ever seen.
Yep.
So this is a no Keith Mitchell then, right? The corollary to that.
Oh man, Keith Mitchell. Yeah, he's fine. He might just tee off on Thursday morning and see it for the first time. I don't know.
Can I ask real quick before we
Sure.
get to the 6K range?
Sure.
Wyndham Clark, it's not that he has my interest necessarily in the upper 7K range, but again, when I'm talking about upside, the state of his game doesn't look good. He did flash at the Houston Open, but I just wonder, especially if I'm looking for profiles with the kind of bombers off the tee, I wonder if Wyndham Clark's just not going to get any looks, and he might be a good DFS play here.
I don't think he gets many looks. I think the entirety of Wyndham Clark's pathway to the top of the board this week is how penal the rough is going to be. You know, he is going to likely spray it, which is fine. And there's not a huge difference from being 5 yards off the fairway to 25 yards off the fairway here, as long as you're a couple trees maybe, but you actually might be better off just missing the fairway bunkers and being more errant. As long as that rough is not super penal, that's a much better situation for Wyndham Clark. So I don't know that. We'll have to figure that out as the week goes on, but that's the pathway for Wyndham, I think.
I mean, the one thing he's doing okay is off the tee and with the putter, which is exactly why I said I would at least consider Minwoo Lee a few $100s more than him. So I just think from a profile standpoint, if that's the type of golfer you're going for, Wyndham Clark from an ownership standpoint might make some sense.
Let me hit you guys with the 6K range here. So there are 31 golfers. Harris English and Sahith Theegala are 6,900. This is the cheapest Sahith has been in at least 3 years. I believe the Memorial of 2022 was the last time he was cheaper than this. $6,500. That would get you Adam Scott, Max Homa, Nick Taylor. The bottom of this range, that's guys who have been struggling as of late: Nick Dunlap, Cameron Davis, Matthew Pavone, amongst others. Sia, you get first crack here in the 6K range. What can we pull out of here?
Well, I saw there was somebody that asked, the same guy who asked about Daniel Berger in the chat was asking about Tom Hoge. I think he's really interesting at 6,700. Again, it really comes down to what type of golfer you want. If you're going to buck the distance narrative, because it is a short course. I mean, if we're being honest, like obviously you can, it's not that at the beginning of the show I was suggesting like I'm all on driving distance, but I just do think that's an advantageous path based on what I've heard. With that said, like the Tom Hoge game of just being hot on approach and hot with the putter, that seems like that would probably work as well. So I think he's interesting at 6,700. Eric Cole, for the same reasons, who's all of a sudden starting to play well, very interesting. Other guys I would look at are, I went to Jacob Bridgman. I've been doing that all year. Last week it burned me, but I think Jacob Bridgman, speaking of a guy that can get hot with the putter and can just kind of figure a course out. Like I feel like he's kind of good at everything, not great at anything outside of the putter. That could be good here. Woodland I was thinking as you were saying approach and putting, I was like, oh, that's got to be Eric Cole. Yeah, look at this.
He's going to reference. I mean, he's got 5 straight T26s or better. I am throwing out the Zurich Classic where he played with a guy who literally does not have status and missed the cut. And his best finish is his most recent, which is Byron Nelson. Also, this is a golf course. Whether you think distance or accuracy is an advantage, lack of distance is not a disadvantage, right? It's not long. There is one hole on the front 9 that is over 450 yards, and it is a par 5 that is like 550, and everybody's going to shred it. Like Eric Cole is not going to be penalized for his lack of distance here.
Yeah,
any of these guys, in my opinion.
Cole and Hoge are pretty much have the same profile, and they've both been playing really well.
Yeah, very similar. Okay, Mike, the 6K range is yours, my friend.
All right. I will mention Gary Woodland. I like Gary Woodland in these kind of events. I think he's long enough off the tee, and I think that he fits in that category where the distance can help him. How about after Woodland? Sia and I have played this guy a lot. I believe you have too. Ryan Gerard.
Yeah.
He's been playing fantastic golf, and people are going to see that miscut at a very low scoring event. The cut was -5. He shot -4. After what I've seen from him, I can forgive him for that in a, missing the cut in an extreme birdie fest by 1 stroke. I think that you can throw that out. So I've seen enough from him that I think he should be in the 7s, not the 6s. He will be the first player in for me in the 6K range. And then Bridgman, Woodland. I think Tom Hoagie is fine just on skill set alone, but the ones that I'll be focused on will be Gerard and Woodland.
You know the record-setting week that Scotty Scheffler had last week and how he shattered all these records and all that fun stuff? Did you know that Eric Van Rooyen actually beat him on the weekend by a stroke?
I was going to say, we got to bring up EVR at some point.
And not only did he do that, but he picked up nearly 12 and a half strokes from tee to green. I realize it has not been a very good 2025 for EVR, but he is incredibly cheap, playing great golf. Am I crazy to think that we're just going right back to the South African here?
Well, I mean, it is a different, it is a different setup, obviously, than last week. I will say this. I think it was a couple of years ago where EVR, we're not close to sort of the FedEx Cup playoffs, but it was a couple, maybe two, it was probably 3 years ago.
Yes.
Where he went on a run. Like when
Yes.
EVR goes on runs and he's dedicated and motivated, like he goes on runs and he was just he was so far from qualifying for the FedEx Cup playoffs and then just like rattled off so many like wins or whatever it was, top fives, and got there and then made it, I think, to the BMW or
no, I think he got to the Tour. I'll check, but he were like the Wyndham Championship. He like played himself into the playoffs. Then the first leg, he like had to finish top 5 to get into the next. Like he did that. He went on this run that I thought he went all the way through to the Tour Championship, but I could be wrong. But yes, you're right. He just kind of snapped off and went nuts and kept playing himself into it.
Yeah. I don't hate the play at 6,200. The thing is there's a lot like Gary Woodland. What is he? 6,300. Like there's so many players in that 6K range that you can make arguments for that are legitimately great golfers.
I think it was this run right here, 2021. So he wins the Barracuda the week before the Wyndham Championship. 37th at the Wyndham to get into the playoffs. Then he goes 7th at the FedEx St. Jude. That gets him into the BMW. Finishes 5th at the BMW. That gets him into the Tour Championship. Then he finishes T22 at the Tour Championship. That's the run we're referring to.
It's a ridiculous run, considering where he was prior to that.
Oh, yeah. Just like not sniffing. Yeah, it was miserable. He had like one top 10 finish all year and a bunch of missed cuts. Yeah, it was bad. Anybody else in the 6K range, right? We've got Garrick Higo, who's won a golf tournament recently. We've got Joe Highsmith, who has won this year, though things have kind of turned sour for him. We have Alex Noren, who is going to make his first start in like 9 months. He had a torn glute. Ooh, painful. Anybody else that I can interest you in here?
I mean, I got to say it because the chat's going on. Thorpe is actually playable to me. So, yeah, he's got the distance. He's playing, he's fine at 6,400. Like, I'm not excited to go play him over Gerard or Woodland, the two that I'm gonna be focused on, but I think the upside is still clearly there. And the good news is you don't have to jam a bunch of these guys in. And I think he's unlikely to totally kill your lineup.
He also fits the description of the carry distance argument. Like he absolutely smashes it. So, he certainly fits in that bucket if that's what you're going for.
I hope that someday someone describes me as unlikely to totally kill your lineups. It's like a low bar, but I've crossed it. Yeah. I've crossed it. Nice. I love that. Anything or anybody else?
I don't think so. I think roster construction is going to be really important. I think once we see during the live chat on Wednesday where some of this ownership falls, we're going to see where some of these dead spots are, where some of the pivots are. But this is fun though. It's like 4 rounds. We get 4 rounds unless Hideki withdraws.
Oof.
Or Jason Day.
Don't even throw that out in the universe. I forgot. Hideki, he hasn't withdrawn in a while, has he? It feels like it's been a while.
It's been a while. Yeah. Jason Day has though. Like 1 minute before a tournament started.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Oh God. All right. Well, listen, very important week for information and being up to date. We've got plenty of early wedge remaining this week to do just that with the best bets, of course, the live chat, and then obviously when the week gets started to rock and roll. So for now, I'm going to say big thanks to producer Josh. He does all the hard work behind the scenes. For Mike McClure, for CBS Nejad, I'm Rick Gehman. This has been the Early Wedge. We'll catch you next time.